Coming up on No Pulp, one of the craziest lacrosse slates of the entire season. We're here to break it all down and tell you everything from some of the top matchups in the college lacrosse world. It's a good time.
And with this being our first lacrosse show of the season, with basketball over, we'll revisit some of our thoughts at the beginning of the year and also tell you about some of the best players in the country, give you our dream teams.
We also got some of the best debaters here at CitrusTV because the Juicer Tournament, that's right, it starts today. We got Avin. Adam Gotkin, not me. I'm going to be judging. Adam Gotkin's going to be, I wish I was in the tournament. Adam Gotkin's going to be going up against Dan Shalam. We also got Ryan Croke and Albaugh taking place in the Juicer. It's going to be an exciting time. For the final time on No Pulp, starts right now.
Lane Kiffin is the same old scumbag who takes off for the next best thing again.
I have a man crush, and it's Caleb Wilson, Max. I love this guy.
Solano's in trouble, hit as he throws, hangs it up towards the end zone, and it's intercepted! Virginia has done it!
You can never doubt UConn. You can never doubt Gino Auriemma at the end of the day.
I feel like you could have blocked a 6'4" linebacker coming at you while you were...
Call or no, Holloman looks the clock, half court for the win!
When you got the best player in the country, you can really do anything.
Nobody expected DJ Lagway to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country because last year he wasn't good either.
First time, how are we feeling, Jake?
I'm excited to win the Juicer.
A century of utility is forgotten. The Indiana Hoosiers are the kings of college football.
Welcome back into our CitrusTV studio alongside Adam Gotkin. I'm Adam Avin. You heard me mention for the final time, it's been 3 years at this desk, Adam. This is our last No Pulp together. It's a sad one. We're going to try and get through it, but we got a lot of lacrosse to talk about, so it should be easy to get through.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. I mean, no better way to end it than by talking lax.
It's the sport we both started at this campus, started covering, and it's only fitting that our last show here on No Pulp is this sport that we both started with. So it's an exciting one. We also got the Juicer Tournament for you. Some exciting matchups here in our own studio as well. Maybe Adam Gotkin keeps his hopes alive, has some more appearances in our studio. It won't be the end for you just yet. But we do have to start with the top matchup from this past weekend, which was #1 North Carolina, #2 Notre Dame, as you see behind us. Two of the top programs in the country. They have been all season long, but in this one, it was Notre Dame, the 2 seed, going down to Chapel Hill, winning this one 10-5. That's not an easy place to play. It's a really tough place to play. And with the way that North Carolina's played this year, Notre Dame did a heck of a job of holding them to their only single-digit game this year. It was a rough matchup for them.
Yeah, this is an Irish team that year in, year out gets a lot of flack for how it schedules. They really play 3 or 4 less games per year than just about every other team in the country. So coming into conference play, there's always a lot of uncertainty, and they have without a doubt proved themselves this season. Back-to-back weeks now that Notre Dame has beat the #1 team in the country. Last week going to Chicago and beating Richmond on the neutral site, and then at home beating North Carolina this past week.
Notre Dame, the only team in college lacrosse history, Adam, to beat the #1 ranked team in the country back-to-back weeks. And they did it in such a defensive-focused way. Notre Dame came out short-handed at the beginning. North Carolina had 2 man-up opportunities. Dom Petramala gets a couple goals. Into the second quarter, Notre Dame was scoreless for the first 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden, second half, they just turned it on. And that was the Notre Dame team we've seen all season long, where they know they can turn things up at the end of the second half and come out on top. That's what they've done. They've dropped a game, but outside of a couple moments where you're like, is this the same Notre Dame squad? Their resume is nothing short of great because of the stats. They speak for themselves.
Yeah, this is Coach Corrigan doing what he does, and that's putting together a good team. Now, the thing that's different this season is that it is a more defensive-minded team. The Kavanaughs are gone, so you look to Sean Light being probably the best defenseman in the country, and him just locking down guys. I mean, how often do both Owen Duffy and Dom Petramala both get held to just one goal? That's almost unheard of. And then on the other side, the guys who did step up on offense, players who you didn't really expect. Teddy Lally, a guy who had 10 goals in the season going into the game, scores a hat trick as a freshman. Another underclassman, Luke Miller, a sophomore, scores a hat trick. Like, these are guys who had not been that big of contributors on the offensive end. They play the #1 team in the country, and they show up.
That was a theme this weekend. Plenty of guys stepping up, maybe unexpectedly, but that's important going into the postseason, which is right around the corner. A team like Notre Dame needs guys to come out of nowhere when your stars are maybe not shining as bright. And in the second half, when Notre Dame put the brakes on Don Petramala and Owen Duffy down there in Chapel Hill. What did the Fighting Irish do? Well, some of the other guys got opportunities, and they were able to shut down North Carolina's stars. That's how you walk away with a victory in a top 5 ranked matchup, a top 2 ranked matchup on the road.
Yeah, it is exactly how you win a game like this. It is locking down. Exactly, it does, and that was the case again in this game. Notre Dame controlled the pace. Notre Dame won the faceoffs. Wambach is a guy who very rarely does not win the faceoff battle. He
one of the best
lost by a decent amount. He wins 8 out of 17. That for him is nowhere close to acceptable. Just 5 ground balls. He doesn't even get a single shot off, not being, a factor on the offensive end. This is a guy, Brady Wambach, who was the best face-off guy in the country, and he just didn't show up in this game.
He didn't show up.
He still is. I mean, I think it's up for debate. I think there's a lot of other guys around the nation, like Henry Dodge. John Mullins had a bit of an up and down season, but Wambach in these big games, you need to show up, and he was 8 for 17. Yeah. But I didn't think that he was really as good as 8 for 17 said. He kind of picked it up towards the end, especially on that run that Notre Dame went on. Right. He was not there. So an incredible 1 versus 2 game. That was definitely the highlight of the week. But a game that you can't forget about, Harvard against Yale. I mean, this is one of the marquee rivalries in all of sports. Whenever these two teams meet, you always know that there's going to be fireworks. It's just one of those matchups where you always know it means more. And this is a big one. Yale, number 17 in the country, at home in desperate need of a win, hosting number 5 Harvard. And the Bulldogs come away with a win in front of a sellout crowd, one of the bigger crowds that they've ever seen at that stadium. And it was the exact recipe that you need for an upset at home. They won the ground ball battle. They won the face-off battle. Incredible team effort. 7 different players score. Everyone was involved. The crowd was energized, and Yale beats its rival. I mean, it's just an incredible game in New Haven.
And Harvard's a team that has plenty of upsets over the past couple of years. When we can talk about it right here in Syracuse, a little Pulp for you, I know Pulp. But Harvard's a team that's always consistently, at least it's what it's felt like over the past few seasons, where they're always making waves. For them to drop this game and get handed their first Ivy League loss of the season is a really big issue for them now going down the stretch. Harvard's schedule, they had a couple good wins, and now you drop this game, maybe one that was unexpected, but Adam, as you know, a rivalry can always flip things on its head, and Yale did exactly that. It extended their win streak to 3 games. It was their 3rd upset of the season. I thought Yale did a good job in this game, especially holding some of Harvard's top scorers down the stretch. That's how again, we talked about defense. It was a defensive weekend, but I mean, 15 goals for Yale at home against a top 5 team. You can't speak enough about the job that the Bulldogs did, and you got to be happy. You got to be happy with the product.
But I don't think Graham Stevens necessarily played to his ability. He was a 5-star as a freshman last season. He really stepped up in big moments, and for him to have just 8 saves, that is not enough in a rivalry game. Ben Friedman just straight up outplayed him. Yeah. Now, I do think that Harvard's going to be just okay. I love Jerry Byrne as a coach. I think that he is the perfect guy for that program.
He gets you hyped up.
And they have a lot of talent on that team. Jack Spidell is an incredible player. I don't think that this team is really in much trouble. Look, it's going to be tough. It's always tough to win in May, but out of all of Harvard's teams that it's had over the past 50 years, over the past 150 years since these teams started playing, I think that the Crimson have to be very excited going into the end of this season that this could be one of the teams to get it done.
Oh, absolutely. But we talk about them not stepping up to the plate. How about some guys for Yale who did step up to the plate? Cole Cashin had 5 goals on 8 shots in this game. This is not a guy who had more than 2 points in a game all season long. So Harvard, despite the way that they've played this year, and I know you like them you like Burns as a coach, you think Harvard and the Crimson can still do some things, but if Yale's having players like this, I mean, they're on the cusp of making the playoffs, and now you have a top 5 Ivy League victory, and you have guys like Cole Cashin stepping up to the plate. 5 goals before this game, then 5-1. I mean, it was a spectacular performance from a guy who hasn't done much in his past few years.
Yeah, well, we just talked about it in the last game with Teddy Lally and Luke Miller stepping up for Notre Dame. If you want to win big games in conference play, you need guys to step up, and that's what Cashin did in this game for Yale. Sure. When his team needed him, he went and got a goal. He was able to do it. by himself, and a very impressive 5-goal performance for him. An Ivy League that is once again very tight. Let's take a look at those Ivy League standings where we sit right now in one of the more competitive conferences in all of college lacrosse. Harvard's still at the top. I mean, you got 3 teams in the top 10, Yale just outside. It is a very, very competitive conference again. I mean, even Dartmouth, who's in last place, not a team to shy away from. They brought over one of Virginia's assistants, and they've been a competitive squad.
Cornell, obviously, you can't count them out either. I feel like they're kind of flying under the radar right now. Adam.
Reigning national champs.
They're reigning defending champs, and they're not being talked about, but they're still hanging around at the top of their conference and nationally, obviously. But Harvard now, with that one loss, things can get a little tricky when now Yale goes on. They get to face Princeton and Cornell as well to end off the season. So now things could really flip-flop with the Ivy League standing so close right now. And you can say the same thing for the ACC as well, who I think you could also say is the best conference in college lacrosse. Just 5 teams, but they play pretty well. And 2 of those teams faced off right here in the Salt City. It was Syracuse, it was Virginia in the JMA Wireless Dome this weekend, Adam, and the Orange came out on top 14-9, led by a couple guys by the names of Wyatt Hoddle, Luke Roa, who both had hat tricks in this game. Joey Spallina a little bit quiet, but he sits a couple points back from the all-time points record here, so that is why Syracuse is all the talk right now, but you can't deny the performances, especially after a loss to UNC, how to bounce back against a Virginia team that's been rising the ranks as of late.
Yeah, a very big bounce-back win for Syracuse after falling to North Carolina. Yeah, the Cavaliers are no slouch at all. They are not the bad team that they maybe looked to be at the start of the season. Right. They have completely turned things around, and Syracuse played one of its better games this season. The 8th win over a ranked opponent, and this was another convincing one. Syracuse has now convincingly beat Boston University, St. Joe's, Georgetown, Duke, Virginia, just beating these ACC teams, looking like the better team time and time again. I mean, I was so impressed by the Syracuse offense, particularly in this game. Joey Spallina really, he didn't have that hat trick, but he stepped up and, 2 goals, 3 assists. Like, that is the game that you are looking for Joey Spallina week in and week out, for him to put up 5 points. That's all you can ask for. And then, Luke Roa, just one of the most dangerous shooters that the sport has seen over the last decade. When he gets his shot off, he's hard to stop, and he was really schemed open a lot. I thought that Pat March had a great game.
And he has such a fast whip from his release, Adam. Anytime Luke Roa gets in a free space, Joey Spallina does all the work around the cage, but Luke Roa is a guy who, from 40 feet out, can just knock it past any goalie. I mean, it's so impressive with what they can do. You talk about the offense maybe being one of the best attacks just as a group in the country. Jimmy McCool in this game.
Oh, my goodness.
18 saves. My God. He was phenomenal. A career-defining performance late in the season.
And it comes the game after he gets pulled against North Carolina. You talk about a guy who stepped up right when his team needed him. That was Jimmy McCool.
And he obviously gets, you mentioned, he gets benched in that game against North Carolina. And he was down on himself. He gets pulled in that game. And he gave a little bit of insight into what led him maybe having a spectacular performance system out against Virginia. Take a listen to what McCool had to say after the game.
Yeah, I think it started Sunday. My girlfriend got me a record player for my birthday. So I went into my room, turned all the lights out, and just listened to Tame Impala's new album, and then was reset from there.
Yeah, wow. I love it. That's great.
Yeah. Whenever we have a bad show, do you go home and turn on the Tame Impala
Not
record?
Tame Impala, no? Probably like the Grateful Dead or some Billy Strings maybe.
I know,
but
that's too bad.
I would love a record player. That'd be cool.
But look at some of his performances from earlier this year prior to that UNC game. 17 at Georgetown, 12 against Duke. Those were 2 victories in the Dome. And then you fall down on UNC, and Gary Gates says, enough. We got to pull you and make sure you're ready for the next week against Virginia, because that is going to be the one that matters.
Yeah, and that happens in this sport. Patrick Jamison for Duke got pulled against Syracuse. You have to be ready to bounce back. I mean, McCool's got the mindset of what happened last week doesn't matter. That's the truth.
Well, we took a look at the Ivy League standings earlier. How about the ACC standings, and where Syracuse and Virginia fall into things? Now with the win against Virginia, Syracuse sits at the top with a 10-3 overall record. Duke, number 15 in the country, 0-2 in the conference, Adam, and they're all the way at the bottom, but still in a prime playoff spot, as it seems.
I don't know. I think
they get one of those at-large bids?
No, I think Duke's in a lot of trouble right now. Just like I was saying about Notre Dame earlier, not scheduling a lot of games. Duke does the same. they do not have the non-conference schedule to get into the tournament whatsoever.
Well, we know that Gary Gay loves scheduling tough opponents. Syracuse, one of the most difficult schedules in the country, and they're proving why they can hang with the big dogs. We got a lot more lacrosse we're going to get to as the Juicer tournament gets underway after the break. You don't want to miss it. Stick around here on No Pulp. The Juicer tournament is finally underway. Unfortunately, I'm not participating, but we got two of our participants right here, Ryan Croke, Drew Albaugh. Guys, are you excited? You're getting ready? Maybe someone moves on in a convincing way?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I think it's a definite.
We'll see. Definitely. Oh, both people really strong right now. All right, I like it. Drew, we're going to start with you on this one. Obviously, we're talking lacrosse, but
yeah.
I got to ask you, who's the most underrated team in the country right now? I know there's a bunch that are kind of flying under the radar.
I'm going to go with number 6 Cornell. This is a big red team. After winning the national championship last year, I think has somehow gone under everybody's radars. This is a team that has just 3 losses on the year. 2 of those came over a month ago. Connor Busek is one of the best in the entire country at coaching. I mean, won a chip last year. What else can you say about him? And attackman Willem Firth is an absolute problem. Averages over 3 goals a game. 5th in the country. He had 5 points against Princeton, which leads me to my next point. Cornell took down a number 2 Princeton squad that looks pretty much unbeatable this year. If that doesn't show you that this Cornell team can beat anybody in the country, I don't know what will. Also wins against Duke, wins against Denver, Penn. I mean, there's a few marquee wins that Cornell has, and no one's talking about the Big Red right now.
All right.
Well, talking about the marquee wins, I'm picking a team who might not have the marquee wins that Cornell does.
Great.
And that's Maryland, the national runner-up from a season ago. Here's the thing with Maryland.
Lose to, Ryan?
Listen to this team, all right? They're the defending national runner-ups. They didn't win the championship like your Cornell Big Red did, Drew, but this is their resume. They don't have the greatest record, 6-4, not something you pop your eyes at. But they're the preseason #1 team. They play as tough defense as anybody in the country, and I can promise you, Drew, nobody wants to see Maryland in the NCAA tournament. And I know a lot of teams that are out there right now would fear a draw of Maryland in round 1 much more than they would fear a draw of Cornell in round 1. I don't care what Cornell, a team that beats Princeton can't be underrated. That's a marquee win. Maryland might not have that right now.
No one is talking
at the
about
right
Cornell.
time.
No one's
talking about Maryland the way they should
and
be
Maryland
either.
has none
They've
of the
won 3
pedigree that
straight
Cornell
games,
has.
2 back-to-back
None
wins
of the
over 8
pedigree that
teams.
Cornell
We're
has.
starting fiery, ladies and
Ifs
gentlemen.
and buts were candy and nuts.
Look.
A wonderful Christmas we'd have.
That's a great quote from you. Look, I think we got to move on here because I can't let you guys argue too much, but Ryan, unfortunately for you, I did go up there at the top of the show and say that I felt like people weren't talking about Cornell as the defending national champions. To me, that's a little bit weird considering how good they're still playing.
Top 6 in the country.
Drew, you get
All
the
right,
first
keep
point
sleeping
here.
on Maryland.
You get the first
Okay.
point.
We'll
Look,
see.
nobody's sleeping on Maryland. We got more Maryland talk a little later in the show. Adam Gotkin will be back with us. All right, Drew, question number 2 for you. A lot of stars who maybe are getting some trouble recently. We know how good these guys can play, but is there somebody who's worrying you as of late with their play?
Yeah, how about starting Duke goalie Patrick Jameson? Where has he been? I mean, seriously, averages 6 saves a game. That's a bottom 5 mark in the entire nation. He's played absolutely awful. Over the last 4 contests, Duke is 1-3. Its only win, a 1-goal victory over now unranked Denver. In those 4 games, a 45% save rate. He's been absolutely terrible, and this Duke Blue Devils team needs him to step up. Talk about stars. Jamison was all ACC last year, and he could potentially get benched. I mean, that's how poor he's been. Just 6 saves a game. It's a number that I can't even quite frankly say out of my mouth right now. You saw me stumble my words there.
That's true.
6 saves? I mean, are you serious? And this guy, I mean, he was absolutely awful the last 4 games, 1-3, and Duke's played poorly.
You mentioned a team we talked about off the top of the show. I'm going to another one. How about Harvard, who just lost to Yale? And I look at attackman Jack Spidell, their top offensive option, who's had 0 points in his last 2 games. 5 total shots in those 2 games as well. Not at all what you want to see from a guy who's supposed to be leading an offense that's maybe their calling card. The reason that Harvard was so strong to start the season, he's been absolutely nowhere over these last 2 games. This is a guy who's had 7 games this season of 11 played with 3 points or more. And these last 2, he's got 0. And that is not what you want to see from a Harvard team that has a lot of questions about it, especially with this recent loss to Yale, Adam. I don't think that Jack Spidell and this Harvard team can really do much, especially if he's playing the way he is right now.
Great season. This is an interesting one.
2 games.
As of late, he's been worse.
As of late, he's been worse.
As of late, is the question.
Jameson's been awful the whole season.
Look, I love this, okay? I like both of these answers, I really do. You said one thing, Drew, that caught my eye. You said you think Jameson could potentially get benched. He did against Syracuse. The play's been there.
That was a few weeks ago.
It was a few weeks ago,
in the last 2
but
games,
it's happening.
He played all 60 minutes
he's still not
and
showing
played
up.
awful.
But when your best player on your attack is not showing up and he goes scoreless in 2 games when the postseason's right around the corner, Harvard needs to win these games, and that one against Yale.
Oh, and Duke is sitting pretty. Am I right?
Ryan Croke gets the second question here. So Ryan's up 2-1. We're going no bonus here. But Ryan, we're going to start with you on this 3rd question. You can take it, or maybe Drew comes back. Best individual performance from this past week. Who you got?
Well, I know Drew's going to have a tough time with this one because it's a goalie performance. How about Notre Dame's goalie, Thomas Ricciardelli? 15 saves against North Carolina. That's a season high. 75% save percentage. Also a season high. This is a UNC team that ranked 3rd in the country in scoring offense coming into this game. Just under 15 goals a game. Ricciardelli held them to 5. They had just been held to single digits only once all season coming in. They scored 9 in that game. So just 1 shy of 10. Only 5 against Notre Dame. And this is a Notre Dame team that is just so complete right now. And it's largely due to the fact that their goalie is playing the best of anybody in the country at this moment. This is the most impressive goalie performance this season by a mile. It's Ricciardelli. By a mile.
I mean, it's the wrong goalie performance. You picked a guy.
So you like goalies now? You like goalies now?
I've always loved goalies. Sure. And you picked a guy who had, I played multiple sports, who had less saves than my guy, Jimmy McCool for Syracuse, who stepped up in a big way against Virginia. You know what's better than 15 saves? How about 18 saves for Jimmy McCool in his best performance all season long? He was absolutely awesome. Spectacular, 64% save percentage. And this was a guy that was benched just last week against North Carolina. His expectations were on the floor, and he broke through the ceiling. McCool was absolutely spectacular against Virginia. 4 of his previous 5 games finished with a save percentage under 45%, and then comes out and plays the game of his life against the Virginia team, by the way, that was averaging over 15 goals per game, and he absolutely shut them down. Jimmy McCool played his heart out, and where his expectations were, he exceeded them so high. 18 saves for Jimmy McCool.
Save percentage in the mid-60s, 75% for Ricciardelli.
But Ricciardelli's been doing it all season long.
Number 1 team in the country. But 15 goals a game. Number 3 scoring offense. You'd rather have Jimmy McCool against Virginia? Congrats, you beat Virginia. It's a team that's
Virginia's a top 5 offense in the country.
Offensively in that game.
More saves, by the way, for Jimmy McCool against just as good of an offense.
Okay. I think Ryan Croke has a really bright future at CitrusTV and the Juicer. I really do. We talked about the defensive performance that Notre Dame had, but we talked about them as a team performance, and what they did across the board was great. Jimmy McCool, 18 saves,
64% save percentage.
After being benched, that's the best individual performance by the best goalie last weekend. Drew Albaugh advances in the Juice tournament. Let's take a look at our bracket here. Let's take a look at our bracket here. Drew Albaugh, the number one seed, by the way. Ryan, you took the number 1 seed to the last question there. It was an impressive performance, but Drew Albaugh advances the number 1 seed in the Juice tournament. Will face off against either Adam Gotkin or Shalam. That matchup later in the show as well. We'll be right back here on No Pulp as we continue to talk some fun lacrosse from this past week and play some games along the way. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back into No Pulp alongside Adam Avin. I'm Adam Gotkin. We've got No Pulp Lacrosse College, or No Pulp College Lacrosse 26. The real ball knowers know about Casey Powell Lacrosse, the old video game. I still play it on my Xbox. It's a great game made by this like Big Ant Studios or something. Shout out to them because lacrosse video games, not enough of them. They should bring them back. All right. So essentially, we're going to give 4 teams our initial ratings and then our ratings now, where we think they stand. How did they change from the start of the season to today? And I'll start off with you and the Duke Blue Devils. What were your initial thoughts? That is literally the NCAA. Wow. Wow. Great job,
Shout out
graphics
producer Adam
team.
Freddy. You did a great
job, Adam Freddy.
Look at that.
What do you think about the Blue Devils?
All right, look. Well, I'm choosing Duke here first. At the start of the season, I think nobody expected them to be at the top of the ACC like they might have been years past. So I had them at an 85. I thought based on that, at an 85 rating, Duke being still considered one of the best teams in the country, but in that middle tier of the ACC, they can't be above some of the other top teams. So I had them at 85, and I thought they could make the postseason. I thought they could be in the playoffs. But Adam, I think when you look at where they are now, they've dropped a little bit. They started off the year in the top 10. Now they're sitting outside the top 10, which means you got to drop the rating a little bit. So I have them at an 83. But we talked about it a little bit. I have them down 2 spots in their rating, but I still think that they can make the tournament. And I know they're on the cusp. They need one of those at-large bids, essentially, to make it. They sit at the bottom of the ACC right now, but the season is not over. They can go and get a couple marquee wins as the season wraps up. And if they can do that, Duke can play themselves into the ACC tournament and put them in a position to make the postseason. Look, we know this isn't the same Duke team that had Brendan O'Neill a couple years ago, but they turn over the ball a lot. They go on lulls where they don't score a lot, and yet they're still competitive in almost every game. Still ranked number 11 in the country right now in the preseason poll, and now they've dropped. So when I look at what Duke has done this year, yes, they began the season super hot. And you talked about their limited scheduling in terms of the types of opponents they're playing, and you're seeing that. That's why you lose 3 straight to some of the top teams in the country. But look, Notre Dame and North Carolina, you finish out the season against 2 of those top programs, and you tell me that Duke can't put themselves in position to make the postseason? I believe it. I think they could do it, but I said an 83 here with that uncertainty. You don't know. You got to knock them a little bit on the rating.
Yeah, I agree. And just for a clarification, we were told to give our Madden type ratings. Sure. Madden teams are never up in 99. So this is like an average team. Right. It's a playoff team would be an 83. If you think, man, 83 is not great. Well, we're doing Madden ratings.
We're going Madden. Our college football ratings, right? We're kind of in the middle.
Well, I feel like college football 26 is higher. Like your best teams are like 99.
Madden. We're going Madden ratings. So Madden ratings. College sports games. We're going here in the middle. All right, Adam, how about you? We're going to go to you here. How about Maryland? That's a team that I know you followed for a while. Where do you have them? Where's their start and their end?
Yeah, so, Maryland was number 1 in the preseason poll, reigning national runners-up. So you had to start them at a 92 and say that this team could win the national championship because, well, it's Maryland lacrosse, and every single year the expectation for that program is to win the national championship. If they come up short, the people, like my dad, are very angry. And so I thought at the start of the season, 92 national champs. They brought in Henry Dodge, the faceoff guy, a couple Yale attackmen. But they had some struggles at the start of the season. That loss to Syracuse really stood out, where they maybe didn't look as good as you thought they would in certain aspects of the game, especially in net. And then the real thing to me that hurts them, and especially hurts this overall, has them bumped down by a couple, is Will Shaller's ACL injury. Without him, I have them going down from a 92 to a 90 to end the season. And I don't think that they can win the national championship. Without Shalam and without his stardom on the defensive end, I just don't think that this team is going to be able to win the national championship. Now, this is still John Tillman and the Maryland Terrapins. So they're going to make it to the national championship game. That's what this team does. They play on Memorial Day and then they disappoint you. That is the year in and year out, expectation. Of course, the 1 year as a kid that I decided to stop watching was when Matt Rambo finally won it all. So who knows, maybe if I don't watch this season, they'll win it. But I really don't think that this is a Maryland team that's going to get it done. To me, I don't think that Eric Spanos and Braden Urksa have taken the next step that you were looking for from them as offensive players. They are good, not great. They're not your Matt Rambo, Colin Heacock guys that I think are going to lead you to a national championship like that 2017 team.
Yeah.
Because of that, I don't think that they can get it done on Memorial Day. I think they make it there. You can never count out Tillman in May, but win it, I don't know. All right, so that's my thoughts on Maryland. Let's
only a couple.
Stay in the Mid-Atlantic area and go from Maryland down to Richmond, the Spiders. What a program this has been over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
They've really turned it on. Where do you have them at?
All right, well, look, at the start of the year, I had them at an 86. I had them going to the second round, the quarterfinal of the tournament in May, right? 86, they're right outside of the top 10. They start off the year kind of in that category. They were actually at 8, but no one was really talking about them. You felt like Richmond wasn't going to be a team that could go all the way, so you had them
maybe in the A-10,
maybe A-10, quarterfinal. But with the way they played, I mean, they got to the number 1 seed. They got to the number 1 ranking in the country. So you have to butt them a few spots for that. I had them going to an 89 and making a potential Final Four run out of it. Now they sit at number 4 in the country. Look, I know people aren't necessarily talking about them as a title favorite per se.
Well, they were number 1 in the country.
But they're number 1 in the country. Notre Dame then knocks them down, which was a great game, by the way. And now this is a Richmond team where people are looking at it and saying, okay, they maybe just didn't start off the year being talked about, but they had a lot of key wins. They worked their way up. Aiden O'Neal, it's Wharton finalist as well, 56 points this season, 5th in the country. Second most points per game Richmond has. So we talk about defense winning championships, but Richmond sure can score the ball. And they're right sandwiched in between Duke and North Carolina, 2 premier programs in college lacrosse. And we talked about both of them in this show as some of those best teams that could potentially be in the tournament in May. And so Richmond right now looks like one of those teams that's just going to keep rolling on. And they have a couple of good teams that they can get some key wins against to end off the season. And we might see Richmond later on in the Final Four. Look, as the potential of them being there high, yeah, but it can certainly happen with the way they've played at points this season.
Yeah, they'll just have to lock it in at the end of the A-10 schedule. You got to keep out for High Point. They're looking really good in that conference as well. So, Richmond has to win that conference or else things could get kind of scary. Yeah. There's very few at-large bids out there, especially with the ACC as good as it is this year. Richmond's got to lock it down over these past couple weeks.
Right. You say the same thing for a lot of programs. The Ivy League also super close right now, and I know that Princeton is another program that was up there high, ranked in the top 3. They've been bouncing around a little bit, a couple bad losses, maybe drop them. So where were they at the start of the season compared to where they are now? And I wish there was a middle rating, because if you were in the middle, you had them somewhere in the 90s really high. But where do you have them started?
I think, to me, this is the Princeton Tigers team that we've seen under Matt Madel really the past 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah.
It's a program that is up there with the best of the best in the country. I had them start of the season as a 91 overall and a team that could win the national championship. They were so close last year to making it.
If you're 91.
It is. They were so close last year to making it to Memorial Day weekend until Syracuse ended the season of them on Long Island in a very close game in the quarterfinals. I think that Nate Kabiri and Chad Palumbo are 2 of the best players in the country. They're 2 offensive guys, 2 great shooters. Yeah. However, I don't necessarily think that those 2 shooters is a recipe for success in May. So I don't know how much I believe in Princeton personally. But end of season overall, end of season ceiling, it's got to still be 91 in national champs because they're number 2 in the country. Like, personally, I don't have Princeton winning my national championship. I don't think that they are a top 3 team in the country. But they've done the things that you have to be respected. And I think that you have to respect this Princeton team. Now, as a program, they have struggled a lot in the month of May. They haven't made it to the national championship game since 2002. They've made just 1 Final Four in this century since then, and that was in 2004 when we were born. A lot of these players haven't been alive since Princeton made it to the Final Four. So I think there's an uphill battle, but this team is talented enough to change it without a doubt. And I think that they can get it done. Kabiri especially, he is, I think, one of the best shooters in the country, if not the best.
The Tigers, they can go all the way.
Yeah, they can, for sure. All right, well, you know who else can go all the way? Me in the Juicer tournament. We'll see what happens.
We're gonna find out
coming up after this. I'm taking on Mr. Dan Shalam, former men's lacrosse beat reporter, against another one. Who's going to come out on top? I think me. We'll see what Adam Avin has to think in a moment.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
For the second time tonight, it's another Juicer tournament matchup, which could very well end up being Adam Gotkin's maybe last time in the Juicer,
Let's hope so.
or advancing and having some more on-air opportunities in our CitrusTV studio, going up against Dan Shalam. It's a 4-5 matchup. These are always exciting. Thanks for joining us.
Now,
We appreciate it.
Adam, I just must say you did an amazing job
Thank
judging
you.
the last
Thank you.
Juicer.
All right.
I think you're the best judge
and
here.
I was
you're
really
amazing.
objective and impartial,
Yes,
right?
of course,
I judged
you
that
were.
fairly. All my
Yes.
reasoning was
Yes,
great.
you
All
were.
right. Well,
All
on
we're
that,
looking for.
well, on that note, how about we start with you, Dan?
Great. Let's
we start
do
with
it.
you here. We've talked about some of these conferences in college lacrosse right now that are really close and competitive, but who do you think is maybe the most exciting right now in college lacrosse?
I think this is an easy answer that absolutely no one here is going to dispute. That's the
I'll dispute
ACC
it.
by far and away. I mean, come on, 4 top 10 teams. This is the conference that is undeniably the best year in and year out every single year. Let's not forget that every single team in the conference is ranked. 11 of the last 17 national championship winners have come from the conference. 2 of the last 3 Tewaaraton winners have come from the conference. My question is, why wouldn't you want to watch the best on best in men's lacrosse every single weekend? That's what the Atlantic Coast Conference gives you. It gives you the big matchups, it gives you the juicy storylines, and it gives you winners. Who doesn't like that? It sounds pretty good to me.
There's one issue. The games don't actually really matter at all.
Yes,
because
they do.
The ACC, the winner of the conference, doesn't go to the NCAA tournament.
They're all
in
making the
as
tournament anyway.
at-large teams. It's basically exhibition games. The conference tournament doesn't actually mean anything. You know where it does mean a lot? The Patriot League, a one-bid league that every single season has teams that can truly make some damage in March. Boston University, a team that is consistently in the top 20. How about Army? You remember when they were #1 in the country and then missed the tournament? Everyone has beaten each other. The circle of parity was completed before the end of March. Everyone had beaten each other before the end of March. 7 of the 9 teams in the conference are within 2 games of each other, and you have to win. Because if you don't win the Patriot League, your season is over.
Yeah, and
in the ACC, those teams make it no matter what. The Patriot League, it matters.
The ACC is national champion on national champion every weekend.
Well, look,
watch it in the tournament.
By the way, I just have to say, great start from Adam Gotkin. Already came out firing. But Dan Shalam gets this one because when I think of what exciting, I think the best and the best. I love all the underdogs. What we talked about with the Cinderella runs in March Madness, which is the most exciting region, right? But a couple weeks ago, we were on the show talking about March Madness and saying the best region was the one with all the best teams in it. So Dan Shalam here. Dan Shalam here. It's a comparison. It's a rough comparison, but it works. It makes sense in my brain. So Dan Shalam gets the first point here. We go to our question number 2, which is worth 2 points. So if Adam gets the third one, a potential bonus. But Dan, first off, men's lacrosse. Who has been the biggest letdown so far?
For me, it's got to be the Georgetown Hoyas. This was a team that was ranked 5th in the Inside Lacrosse rankings to start the year. And then guess what happens to Georgetown? Their first 2 games of the year, get canceled after they brought in the Connor brothers from Colgate, who both scored over 82 points last season. This was a Hoyas team that was supposed to finally break the streak, make it back to the Final Four, and then because their first 2 games they're sitting at home, they get swept by Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Richmond, all top 10 teams, and now they're just beating up on bottom seller Big East teams. In my opinion, this was a team that was supposed to make it back to the Final Four, and now just simply can't because the hole is dug way too big, unlike the team you're about to make.
I don't think the hole is dug too deep at all. I think that Georgetown is still far and away the favorites to win the Big East. They'll win that conference, go on to the tournament, and they have proven this season that they can compete with good teams. My team is the Maryland Terrapins. This was by far and away the number 1 team in the country coming into this season. They lose in the Natty last year. They bring back Urksa. They bring back Spanos, their top 2 offensive players. And then they bring in All-American offensive players from Yale. They bring in Henry Dodge, an All-American faceoff guy who's 69% on the season. And then, well, they lose 3 games and they kind of just look so-so all throughout the season. A letdown for Maryland is not winning the national championship. So for this team to be almost outside the top 10 at times and not looking competitive in Big Ten games was a huge letdown. Now, they're coming back. Maryland is still Maryland, but this is not the Maryland team that we thought it would be.
Right. Well, we did talk about Maryland earlier in the show, and Georgetown, despite them, having a down season, they were the number 1 team in the country, the Terrapins were, and now you drop a couple of games. You dropped one to Syracuse early on, and people start to wonder, can they go back-to-back, or can they go back to the national championship? And the question right now is, we don't know. So Adam Gotkin gets the second point right here. It's 2-1 against Shalam. Maybe a comeback on the rise.
Bonus
Third question here, no bonus. All right, but Adam, I'm going to go to you here. Who is the most underrated player in college lacrosse?
For me, this was easy, and it's Nico DePonio, former high school classmate of Max Gifford at Culver Military Academy. He's got the brains, and he is an absolute monster. He is a multi-time All-American that has to post his own highlights on YouTube and put like the screen with the stats and all of his accolades, because people don't know who the guy is. Yet he leads the country in ground balls. He leads the country in caused turnovers for guys who are not faceoff men. This is an absolute star at Utah. He's helping lead this team to the top of the Atlantic Sun. A midseason All-American. He set the program record for caused turnovers. And again, because he wants a chance to get drafted this week, the guy's posting his own highlights on his own YouTube page. Like he's a high school player trying to get recruited. And he is the number 1 guy in the country in caused turnovers. Defensemen never get the love that they deserve. This is a guy who is doing legitimately historic things, and no one is paying attention.
Certainly underrated. Dan?
Another guy who's underrated, it has to be Keenan Everhart from Loyola, Maryland. This was a guy that played 10 games last year, had 10 points before he tore his ACL. And guess what? This year, he has 45 points in 12 games for Loyola and has completely turned around the program. This was a Loyola team that went 3-11 last year. Now, they dropped their first 2 games of the year. Then, Everhart puts up 21 points across 4 games. They win 4 in a row, kickstart the season. Now they're on another 4-game win streak, and he has 16 points in that span. He's first on the team in assists. He's second on the team in goals, second overall in points. But I mean, a guy that had just 10 games of experience, he redshirted his freshman year, and now has the second most points on the team, leads in assists. That's a pretty incredible comeback, and someone that is not talked about whatsoever. Because guess what? DiBenito is talked about.
Second most points on the team.
He's not underrated.
Yeah, they don't talk about him. He leads the country.
You're not underrated.
Here's the thing.
You are if you don't talk about
it. No, if you lead the nation, you're not underrated.
Dan, I think you talked about a guy who flies under the radar, but to me that doesn't necessarily mean underrated. When a guy's posting his own highlights and leading the country in a category that is
Utah
incredibly
can make
important
his own highlights. How is that his fault? Why doesn't his athletic department post his highlights?
Adam Gotkin, this might be our last no Pulp, but you get another appearance.
I shouldn't even have
been
here.
TV studios.
I blame this on Jake Klein. I was never supposed to be in this tournament right now.
Adam Gotkin, the 4 seed, advances to face off against the number 1
Jake
seed.
Klein should be eliminated from the tournament.
It's a junior-senior matchup in the Juicer tournament a little bit later this week. Thanks, Dan, for joining us. We'll be right back as we continue to build up our dream core of players that we want to see play together in college lacrosse. Stay with us.
Welcome to my house. Lately, not my happy place. Everybody's pretty tired of each other. The parents were not themselves. My little brothers were morphing into small creatures. The walls were closing in. Clearly a case of too much family, too close, 24/7. And there's a lot of that going around right now. If this sounds like your house, try going someplace new. YourLifeYourVoice.org. You'll find lots of ideas to help you handle the family stresses of being confined to close quarters. YourLifeYourVoice.org. It might not get you out of the house, but it could help you find a little more breathing room.
Welcome back into No Pulp alongside Adam Avin. I'm the guy who's moving on the Juicer Tournament. Adam Gotkin, thank you so much for rejoining us.
It's sweet, but you deserve the win.
Yeah, it feels great. All right, so we are almost done on No Pulp, but not yet. Right now, we are going to build our dream teams.
Sure.
Guys who we want to see play together. So I'm going to start off with you. You got to start off with the guy who gets you the ball, your dream face-off man.
Yeah, for me,
who's that Fogo man?
My dream
Pokemon.
My dream Pokemon, right. I got to go with a guy who's already been talked about in this program. That's Brady Wambach from North Carolina, because he is, by definition, in terms of statistics, the best face-off specialist in the country right now. And what he's been able to do, he leads Division I in total ground balls. He's first in face-offs with 197. Adam, right now, despite that, after that loss to Notre Dame where he didn't play up to his standards, he's still 4 spots ahead in the total rankings of face-off. The next Power 4 face-off specialist in most face-offs won is John Mullen from Syracuse with 60 less, 137 in 5th place. So he's by far and away the front runner in terms of the premier programs. And right now, he's a guy who you trust. I know he had a down game last week, but you can't say that this isn't a guy you want on a team to get you the ball.
Oh, yeah, he is an absolute stud. No doubt that Wambach, I think, could be the dream Fogo. All right, so who we got? Who's that goalie?
Sure.
I can't think of goalie ma. I can't think of a fun thing. But
it's
me.
You.
Who is my dream goalie? It's a guy who goes by the name of Big Tasty. The DC kid, St. John's College High School, college teammates with Luke Roa, all the Syracuse guys, Caleb Fyock. He is so much fun to watch, and that's what you want from your goalie. A guy who's going to bring energy from the team, both making saves and as a calming presence as a clearer. Now, he has the ability to just do the crazy thing that no one thinks is possible, as you just see these highlight saves over and over and over again. He's incredible at the 2nd and 3rd save. But I love Big Tasty's ability to clear the ball calmly and ensure that he doesn't have any turnovers and that his team doesn't give the ball up and give an opportunity to another team. Fyock is an incredible guy to have on your team and an incredible player.
By the
himself.
way, he's a big guy. He's a brick wall in cage.
That's why his name is Big Tasty. Yes. All right, so that is the dream goalie. What about the dream defenseman? Who's that defenseman? I give up on the Pokemon jokes.
You're like Ryan Seacrest.
Who is
show us the letter.
Throw the Pokeball.
Yeah, this is a guy who's already been talked about in the show, because when you talk about these premier programs that are going to be competing in the postseason, defense wins championships. Sean Light from Notre Dame right now is maybe the best defenseman in the country. Notre Dame always has a top defense, but with what he's done this year, and look, the stats don't necessarily pop out to you on the stat sheet, but with what he's been able to do and stopping so many of the top scorers around the country, he had a premier part in taking down Don Petramala and Owen Duffy last week in North Carolina. Maybe one of the best duos you could argue in the country right now in college lacrosse. And 15 ground balls, 8 caused turnovers this season. You think, okay, that doesn't sound like a lot. Or with some of these other guys we've already talked about today are so past that, maybe just that because they're always around the ball. But Sean Light is always around the important player. He's always around the person that is trying to score for the other team, and that is why he was the preseason defensive-man of the year, the recipient of the Co-Defensive Player of the Year award just a season ago. That's why he's the Fighting Irish are now in prime position as they get ready into May. All right, Adam, this is the important one right here. Obviously, scoring is what people care about. We want the fun attacker in college lacrosse. Who is the guy who's going to bring all the energy to our arena on our team? Who you got?
I mean, to me, this was an obvious pick. If you're going to break the all-time points record at the most prolific program in the sport, you're my dream attackman. It's Joey Spallina. Look, I know he has his haters, but he has his haters because he is the most popular player in the sport. And right now, I think he's probably the best player in the sport.
Is he the Tour-Eton favorite?
Yeah, he's the Tour-Eton favorite. He's 2 points away from breaking the program record. Look, Joey Spallina may not be the athlete that Brennan O'Neill was, but his decision-making, his lacrosse IQ, his passing ability is simply generational. And I think generational is a term that we probably throw around a little bit too often, because generational is really something that happens once every 20, 30 years, and you hear it every 4 years, people call player generational. But Spallina has that ability in terms of what he can do passing the ball. Normal people do not break the Syracuse all-time points record. So for me, it's Joey Spallina. Here's the team of four.
Look at this team.
These guys would be unstoppable.
This would be the best team in the country.
How like in NBA you have the pickup games. I wish you could do that in Casey Powell lacrosse maybe. Should add that add that game
into our video game,
Yes, definitely. All right, well, we are almost done here on No Pulp. When we come back, we've got our top 3 teams of the week, our plays of the week, and our final words. No Pulp wraps up in just a moment.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
For the final time, it's the Adams wrapping up shop here on No Pulp. All right, we got to talk about, you mentioned before the break, some of our top teams around the country, Adam. We've talked a lot about a lot of them. So let's break down our big 3, which is a new thing this year, which I love. We get to highlight some of these top premier players and programs. So this is my big 3 of my teams in men's lacrosse right now. We talked about Notre Dame, 2 back-to-back wins against the number 1 ranked team in the country. How can you not have them being the number 1 team? North Carolina, the team that they just lost to. But look, they've been so dominant all season long, 10-plus goals in every game, except for this one. You have to have them up there. Princeton also with some great wins this year, Adam, but they've dropped a couple as of late. That's why I have them down at 3, but they did beat a lot of those other premier programs so far this season. You got to have them still in the mix, so this is my top 3 as it sits. What about you?
I had a lot of trouble with this. I did keep the same 1 and 2 as you, Notre Dame and North Carolina, and I know Princeton beat Syracuse, but I think that you have to give the Orange credit for the schedule that they played this season.
100%.
There are not other teams that have played with the teams that Syracuse has had.
For sure.
The easy opponents on SU's schedule are ranked teams like St. Joe's and Boston University. I really just think you have to give the Orange credit. We see week in, week out that anyone can win any game in this sport. This is not a sport where teams just like dominate.
Yeah.
So I have Syracuse 3, Notre Dame 1. You beat number 1 teams in the country back-to-back weeks. You have to be. And UNC, they're impressive. We saw what they did to Syracuse.
For sure. Let's talk about some of our top plays. Maybe you'll see some of these programs in our top plays. Who knows? We're going to start with mine, and this one was easy for me because I was watching my friend Adam Gotkin on the call for this game, and it happened right here in Syracuse, but it was one of the craziest games. Quadruple overtime. Syracuse women's lacrosse. Look at this. Oh my God. Caroline Trinkus, I didn't even get the words out. They're going up against Notre Dame. This is a top 10 matchup. Caroline Trinkus, a game winner in the 4th overtime of this game. Not only it wasn't like it was at the top of the 4th overtime, Adam. These two teams were exhausted, and it happened with 1 second left. This was a buzzer beater. look at it from the other angle. And Adam Gotkin on the call was so excited and hyped on this game. I mean, my God, how can you not be electric stuff from Caroline?
Yeah, that was incredible. That was the longest game in Syracuse women's lacrosse history. Trinkus ends it like that. Well, for my play of the week, this is insane. I think this is no Pulp history. We're going about 5-10 minutes down the road over to Lemoyne. I think I drove by this game as the Syracuse women's game had just ended.
As the play
let's take a look. You might be able to see my car drive behind the outfield fence because this is a baseball play. I think it's Thompson Road right behind on the way back from Chick-fil-A. All right.
This is crazy.
Let's see. You ready? Here's the pitch. God, absolutely crushed by the Lemoyne Dolphin hitter. Riley Ames with one of the greatest catches that you will ever see in sports. He goes over the wall, almost flips over. I think he might have been trying to save my car on the way back from Chick-fil-A because I was driving past this ballpark. I mean, this is one of the greatest things that I think I've ever seen. How did he not fall over? How did he stay in? How did he hold on to it? I don't know. Riley Ames from Mercyhurst. Shout out.
Shout out. Oh my Lord. So we have a couple amazing top plays from this week in the world of college sports. So I have a topic that I want to talk about in college sports. Look, transfer portal, NIL, it's something that I've talked a lot about this year, but I don't want to dive into the niche specifics of things. I've done that all year long. But so this is my last final word ever. So for me, I want to rant about something. I want to get energetic about something that's happening in the world of college sports. So this is something that is pissing me off and I find absolutely absurd. Players that are returning to their college basketball programs, or college football programs for that matter, posting "I'm back" graphics are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this is the norm in college sports. This is the logical assumption, was that if a player had multiple years of eligibility, they were supposed to return back to their programs. A player commits to their school, you expect them to stick around unless an "I'm leaving" post, meaning you declare for the draft or are transferring, says otherwise. I mean, this is now a world where this is the norm. Is this okay? Is this acceptable that this is happening, where players are just willingly going to chase the bag in the portal, leaving the programs they committed to, and everyone's just okay with it because this is the new norm? No, it's ridiculous. It's gotten to the point now where you have NFL insiders like Adam Schefter talking about how his guy, Elliot Cadeau from Michigan, at a team where he's an alum from, is signing a one-year deal to return back with the Wolverines. I mean, what are we talking about? Shame on sports media. Shame on these schools for allowing this nonsense to happen, trying to create news that is not news. It's absolutely ridiculous. This should not be the norm. I'm back. Stop it.
It's good. So, these No Pulp producers are incredible ones. Gave me an opportunity to talk lacrosse on my final show, so I have to give my number one take in the sport, and that's that we have to move the season back a month and start playing some midweek games. Basketball is lacrosse in the entirety of your life in terms of how the schedules go. You play Tuesday, Thursday. You play multiple games a week the entirety of your life in lacrosse if you're playing club, if you're playing high school. Yet for some reason, once you get to college, the coaches feel that they need an entire week to scout. That is not how this sport is played. We need to be playing midweek games. And the coaches that I've talked to, some of the most high-profile coaches in the country of top 10 teams, all agree. That's the thing. They're just too scared to be the first ones to do it. Someone, please do it. Play midweek games. Play Wednesday nights. What else is going on Wednesday in April? Play primetime ACC lacrosse. Put it on ESPNU. This sport is an outdoor sport. It is a summer sport. Why are we playing when there's snow on the ground? Why are we having games get canceled season after season? Push it back. Play midweek games. That's how the sport should be done.
An oddly specific and niche final word from Adam Gotkin. It's only right. I mentioned multiple times throughout the show, this is our final time hosting together, and I just want to say what an absolute pleasure it's been. I wouldn't have wanted to do this with anybody else. We came in together, we're ending together, but this isn't just our last No Pulp. This is Adam Gotkin's final show here at CitrusTV. I'm featured in here a couple times. I want to say thank you for all your hard work to the station, Adam, and how much you care and your love for this industry, but also for all the fun memories that we've had along the way.
Yeah.
And I'll pass it over to you.
It's special to look at this. I mean, just some incredible memories, This was always my dream to come to the school back when I was calling games at field level for football, calling soccer games on the top left. Gosh, can't believe that. And, to get the opportunity to go to Dallas, Texas.
Our very first day as roommates as well.
Oh, just absolutely incredible. So much fun. I've met some of my best friends here on the bottom left. If you can see me and Nick King as the Commanders won their first playoff game. It's just incredible stuff. I'm so thankful for CitrusTV for giving me some of my favorite memories ever.
It's just the absolute best. It's been a pleasure hosting this show with you. Wouldn't have rather done it with anybody else. To our parents who watch all of our shows, we love you so much.
Thank you.
For the final time, for both Adams, Gotkin and Avin, signing off on No Pulp. We'll see you soon.